This episode of the Gooner Ramble podcast is sponsored by the sporting app Bookie. Download Bookie, use the promo code podcast, bet and deposit £10 for a free £10 bet. That's Bookie, BOOKEE. Please bet responsibly.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, and before I start introducing tonight's members of the panel, I just want to say I'm conflicted. I'm really conflicted between kind of two schools of thoughts, really. One side of me is full of admiration for what amounted to be a heroic failure on Saturday. We've seen it all too often, heroic failures. And the other side of me sort of like raging against the machine of mass opinion that it was such a heroic effort, to say that, you know, it's the same old failings, come to bite us in the foot once again. And here to help me decide which path I should choose, or even to reassure me that the conflicted path I'm on is fine to be on, is Dave at Gooner Dave 66. How are you, Dave? You all right?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. And we've also got Phil at _Phil Costa. You all right, Phil?
Yeah, not bad, mate.
Good. Right. So hot takes are self-inflicted pain again. Why do we always keep doing it to ourselves? Were we unlucky and Jose very lucky? Obviously, David Gea had one of the goal-keeping performances of the ages. Ozil showing true grit. Penalties. Were we denied stonewall penalties? And Wenger's regret, he said that he blames himself more than anyone first for the result and the performance. So without further ado, Phil, over to you. First of all, I want to kick off by asking, were you surprised to see Lacazette on the field?
I was a bit surprised, because obviously he said after the Huddersfield game that he could be out for a while. So look, we can read into it as much as we want. Maybe he did just recover quickly. We don't really know, but it's nice to see him sort of engage in a bit of mind games, to be fair, because usually we're the ones being honest all the time and everyone else is pulling the tricks on us. So look, they did the same with Matic. We did it with Lacazette. So, it's not an issue from where I am. And I'm glad he started because I thought he was excellent.
And the Matic thing, was you surprised to see him back in the squad? I mean, he did travel down with them. I mean, Jose made no bones about the fact that he was going to, make a late decision on him. Was you surprised to see him more on the field as play as well?
Nah, not really, to be honest. We've seen this before with Mourinho. So it was a big game, and sometimes you need to keep your cards close to your chest, and that's what both managers did. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But I think both were pretty intentional. They knew what they were doing. So it just added to the theatre, I guess, to the drama. So no, that was fine by me, and I think it just added a bit more spice sort of to the game as well.
Dave, you were at the game. What were your thoughts on it? I mean, you were both at the game, but I was coming to you, Dave, and going back to Phil. I mean, what was the feeling? Before the start, because apparently with the Man United, actually, did they win the toss and then decided to switch ends or something like that? Is that correct?
Yeah, the initial excitement in the pub before the game when Lacazette was in the team was fantastic, and I think everyone went into the ground feeling very upbeat because of that. And yeah, one of the first things I noticed was that they'd switched us round, which is very unusual because I'm in the clock end corner, so they're pretty much always attacking the end I'm at in the first half. So yeah, it was very unusual. So I got in literally just before kickoff to see them going the other way. So again, mind games, I guess, maybe, I don't know. I didn't see the toss. I literally got in just as they were about to kick off. So, but I think that's the first time I can remember that happening for a long time.
Indeed. Phil, over to you, back to you. I mean, opening minutes, were you surprised at, Mourinho's, game plan, actually? He was very aggressive, very offensive, wasn't he, in his pressing? I mean, me and Dave and Akil, I think, and was also, were discussing in the pod leading up to last week's pod, and we were wondering what kind of game plan Mourinho would come with? Would he park the bus, or would he sort of press high and pick us off? I mean, were you surprised to see how offensive they were?
Not after seeing the lineup. I didn't think he would park the bus, but I thought he would be, quite reserved and try and pick us off on the break. But when I saw, Martial start, I saw Matic start, I saw Lingard in particular start, then I thought maybe this is a sort of change of approach from Mourinho, because, whatever you think of Lingard, he's not the greatest player in the world, but he's a functional player, and Mourinho and functional players go together perfectly. And you could see from the first minute, I couldn't believe how quickly he was covering ground. He was just gliding across there. And then you've got Martial there as well, who's, he's not the most defensively sound player, but, he's learning under Mourinho week by week. I think that was his 5th straight start. So he's obviously doing something right. And Lukaku's always a handful. The presence of Matic allowed Pogba to push forward a bit. So any service, that Xhaka was going to get was non-existent. And our defenders are usually quite good on the ball. I mean, Monreal is excellent. Koscielny's usually pretty reliable, and Mustafi as well. But that first 10 minutes, they really sort of unsettled us quickly. And, I don't think we were quite prepared for that. And I know the mistakes were sloppy, but, I have to give Mourinho a bit of credit there, because, he sort of forced them, if you will.
Dave, as Phil said, Lingard had a particularly good game in the opening minutes, and what I saw was they created a 3 in midfield, so they sort of like overmatched us in midfield. So it was like 3 of them against 2 of us, and it forced Ozil to drop back. Also, what I'm noticing now, and I'm not sure, I mean, I've watched the Adrian Clark show, I've listened to a few other podcasts, but no one's really sort of like talked about how the midfield's not really helping the defence. Okay, there were elementary mistakes. There's no getting away from it. Both Koscielny and Mustafa are at fault. But when you look at how the lead up to the goals, there were no real options. Obviously, Koscielny tried to play in, what's his name? Kolasinac on the left, with sort of a really sort of low percentage risk ball. But there was no real options for him from midfield to sort of like have an outball.
Yeah, no, there was a case, but I mean, we can all talk about Koscielny's mistakes on the day. I have to say, when I saw that ball, I'd literally said to the guys, I sit with, Valencia is the best, is for me, pound for pound, one of the best players in the Premier League. I've always thought it. And as soon as I said it, he anticipated what Koscielny was going to do. And you've got to give the guy credit. Not only did he intercept the pass, which was a perfectly good pass, it was probably 95% of times that pass would have reached the intended recipient from Koscielny. There was nothing wrong with the ball. You're right, he didn't have another ball to make. He could have just hoofed it, but he didn't. He made a perfectly good pass, and Valencia anticipated it. So you've got to give credit to Valencia, and then to play the 1-2 and finish it off. He's just such a fabulous player. And I can't help but admire the fact that 10 years down the line, he's now captain of Man United when he came from Wigan. Quite an unbelievable story, really. I really admire the guy. Unfortunately, he doesn't play for us, but
I mean, okay. So, the pass. We can argue whether the pass was a good one or a poor one, but following on from that, Valencia's laid the ball into Pogba, and then dereliction of duty. Like 3 or 4 of our players, are drawn to the ball, giving Pogba the easy pass out to Valencia, who scores with ease. I mean, those kind of things. I mean, they're elementary mistakes, but also, I mean, it's so early in the game. You're not supposed to exhibit that kind of sloppiness so early in the game, Dave. 4 players actually just hone in on the ball and
three. Well, not so much Mustafi, he's younger, but the other 2, are 2 of our most experienced players in the whole squad. And Monreal probably hasn't put a foot wrong more than once or twice the entire season. So you don't expect it of him. Yeah, and that was crazy. But, they were bad errors, and we got punished. Any other day we might not have done, but against the best sides, you will. Simple as that. They did press us very high, very early. They did to us what we did to Tottenham a few weeks ago. Really.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you wonder why, when we executed such a magnificent game plan against Tottenham, why we didn't start with the same, tempo and the same attitude and the same, pressing the opposition. It's hard to explain with Wenger, isn't it? Sometimes his teams do it, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do it individually, sometimes they do it collectively. You just think, how can it be so difficult to do the same thing every week against the best sides? But it seems to be for us.
Phil, the second goal, again, I think the ball's come back from, I don't know who it was, it might have been Xhaka to Mustafi. And he's had time to look up and either play an out ball or even the safe pass would have been back to check. But again, what I noticed again was there was a lot of space between him and the players up ahead of him. For him to make the pass to Ramsey or Xhaka, I think probably would have intercepted that straight pass out to Ramsey in the middle of the field had it not, I mean, if it wasn't a fired in really accurate pass. So again, it looked like he had about 4 or 5 different options according to Adrian Clark's breakdown. But I'm thinking there's too much space between him and the first receiver. It forces him to look left. They're covering the passing lanes. He panics. He should have played it out. He gets picked off by
Monreal was telling him to play it back to check.
Yeah. And, so it's almost like a collective kind of breakdown of, he's poor. His decision making is poor. But again, he's not really got many easy options to make the pass apart from check.
No, I agree with that. I think the point at which it happened was telling. I mean, after that first goal, we should have, regrouped, got everyone back together in their positions, stayed a bit more disciplined, just avoid the game getting away from us, really. And I think, even though we were 1-0 down, there was 85 minutes to go, or 80 minutes to go, however you want to see it. And I think there was some nerves there, even though we were on a good run. Look, Mustafi's at fault here. There's no way to sort of sugarcoat that. I think he took too long on the ball. The pass back to Czech was on, definitely. I saw Xhaka getting a bit of stick as well for the pass, but I don't think, you can really call him capable for that. I think there were other parts in the game where you could, but that certainly wasn't, Xhaka's fault there. I just think it's an error from Mustafi. He got a bit overconfident on the ball, whether he was injured beforehand, I don't know. But it was just, it was avoidable again, but it was again made by that press with Martial and Lingard, straight on them, swarming onto our defenders, and it worked. So, look, we can say what we like, but it's just errors again, individual errors, and when you're 2-0 down after 10 minutes, you always make it difficult for yourself.
So, Dave, I mean, Wenger's taken the choice of, as the half's gone on, to switch from a back 3 to a back 4, taking off Kolasinac, I think. Or was that in the second half? I can't even remember.
I didn't take late. This was much later.
Oh, was it much later? Okay, so we've worked our way back into the game then, showing our technical ability. We've speeded up our game, and it's the kind of Arsenal that you want to see, don't you? That we've been pining to see, and then we've just come up against a magnificent goalkeeping display, haven't we?
Sorry, I'm wrong there. It was at that time he switched to a back 4, but he didn't take Kolasinac off.
Okay.
So he just obviously lost Mustafi, so he went to a back 4, didn't he?
That's it.
So Monreal went in alongside Koscielny. And the interesting thing about that is, for the rest of the game, we played with complete fluency in attack. Okay, we had another mistake later on, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but that's the most interesting take from the whole game for me. Are we sitting comfortably because we've had a good run playing with it in this current formation since last April, and thinking, well, we're better defensively, when actually I think we all probably know we're not better defensively. It's just the safety in numbers thing with 3. And I'm starting to wonder, good thing Was isn't on the pod, I'm starting to wonder whether we're selecting a formation that allows us to play Xhaka and Ramsey, rather than selecting a formation that is the best for Arsenal Football Club right now. Because when you saw the fluency, the old fluency, back in the 4-2-3-1, you think, hold on a second. It's been very occasionally we played with that much attacking flair since April. And yet, we lost this game, can't take anything away from that. We have no points, they have 3. But the way we played in the second half, particularly in that 4-2-3-1, just was mindful of where we've been in the past and where we haven't been recently. So that's my biggest take from the game. We just looked like our old selves in the old formation, and you've got to ask the question: does that change the manager's thinking?
What do you reckon, Phil? What's your take on it?
No, I agree. I think it's good to have more than one system in your locker. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt that the change to a back 3 sort of changed our fortunes last season, because we were in a bad way until about end of March, early April. So, look, just freshening things up did did us a favour. It got the best out of Xhaka, it got the best out of Ozil and Alexis. But Dave's right, you saw how smooth everything looked, how fluent we looked. And I don't think it's a surprise that we had our best three up front either. And, Ramsey's been playing absolutely brilliantly of late. So it just afforded everyone a bit more time and a bit more space. And, even with Iwobi playing at left wing back sometimes and on the left, we still found an option every time. We still found those cute little interchangeable passes. And, they couldn't live with us in that second half. We were creating chance after chance. And it was nice to see us excite again, because so often our play has been dull and sideways and boring. So it was just nice to see us go for it. And against Manchester United as well, and a Mourinho Manchester United, which is, is unheard of.
Well, we had to, didn't we? But it's still nice nevertheless. Yeah. You have to chase the game, but we chased the game in a very, very exciting fashion. But it also brings on to the next logical question, which I don't know if you're going to ask it, Giles, but what's happened to Kolasinac? Were we getting carried away too early with this guy? Because his passing is non-existent. He's missing tackles. He's jumping into tackles and missing them. And if the answer is to go back to a back four, however good and however fantastic and consistent Monreal's been, on the left of a three, we all know he's just as consistent as a left back. And I wouldn't have any sentiment at all right now if Kolasinac was given a spell on the sidelines. But we can't do that in the current system, because that means, we can, but it means bringing Maitland-Niles in as a left wing back, which I think is probably throwing him in, the deep end in the Premier League on his wrong foot is probably unfair. So, if we're not going to play Kolasinac and we are going to go to a back four, I have no issue with that, but it's a huge decision.
But the thing is, are we jumping? It's almost as if we've been waiting for an excuse to go back to the back four. I mean, look, since the international break, we won 3 on the trot. We hadn't conceded a goal. We'd scored 8 or something like that. Apart from the spell against Huddersfield where we looked shaky and it should have been a warning sign. Apart from the Huddersfield game, we looked pretty decent. I mean, the Burnley game, we were solid. Are we looking for an opportunity? Are we looking for opportunities to go back to that system because we're not reassured by the 3 at the back? Is that what it is, Dave or Phil?
No, I don't know. I agree with Phil. I mean, it's nice to have. I've always, ever since I can remember thinking about football under Wenger, since it stopped going as well as it used to be, I wanted a manager who would be willing to change the formation and change the tactics game to game. I see all the other good managers do it. I see us not doing it. We changed to a back 3, and then even when we haven't got the players fit to play in the back 3, we still don't go. He just go with it until there's some sort of complete calamity or a massive injury list for him to change to something else, because he hasn't got 3 centre backs left to play. We nearly saw it at Wembley, didn't we? And he took a gamble on Per. So it's almost like he's never going to do that. And it's like the complete opposite with Mourinho or Ferguson or someone. I mean, that selecting Lingard, if you'd have said to any Man United fan a month ago, Rashford is not going to start, it's going to be Lingard, they would have laughed at you, would they not?
Exactly.
Rashford's on fire, him and Martial interchangeable, whoever starts seems, and the other one comes on and scores. Lingard had barely started for Man United this season. I think he'd had about, when he played for England a few months ago, he'd had like 60 minutes on the pitch in the whole season. And yet he's picked for the job.
And also the same with Martial,
for the job he can do on the high press. Simple as that.
Also the same with Martial. Martial was not the flavour of the month with Mourinho.
No, it was Rashford and Mkhitaryan.
Yeah.
No matter. That's a totally different team now. But he's picking a team based on his summing up of what Arsenal's strengths and weaknesses are, and he got it right.
Is it just a case of then, Phil? Man United just played on our weaknesses. They played on our weaknesses, and we didn't react. We couldn't find enough weaknesses of theirs.
Look, I don't think this was a Mourinho masterclass by any stretch. No. I mean, we dominated that game for large portions. What they were was clinical. They had 2 shots in the first 10 minutes and they scored them both. You can't really ask for more than that if you're a Man United fan or Jose Mourinho. But I mean, the plan was clear. They would sort of press fast early on, and then when they had their lead, they would sit back and spring on the counter. It's nothing revolutionary about that. You don't need to be Guardiola to think about that. they just took their chances and we didn't. So that ultimately, that's where the difference between the two sides, was, and apart from David De Gea as well, who was unbelievable. But I don't think it was, through a major tactical faux pas of our own. I just think, it was down to individual quality on the day, and they sort of edged it on that basis.
The goal that we finally scored, Phil, was a brilliant piece of work. I mean, Alexis has been savaged quite a lot this season and on Saturday, but because I think he lost possession like over 30 times. I think somebody said. I'm not sure. But 34 times he lost possession on Saturday.
17 in each half.
Yeah. But it was his pass. He sees Ramsey making the run through that crowd of bodies. He sees Ramsey making the run. Ramsey, and I had to question what I think Chris Hoddle, Glenn Hoddle and Steve McMahon said that Ramsey was it was lucky. He didn't mean it. He didn't mean to lay it back. But from what I could see, he definitely meant to lay it back to.
No, you can tell he meant it, because as soon as he knocks it back, he tries his best to get out of the way, and that's that was a clear giveaway in my opinion. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, what did you make of Alexis' performance? I mean, like I said, a lot of people really were laying into him, saying that he's a fraud, he's this, he's that, blah blah blah. But even in his poor season to date, I think he's been involved in 5 goals so far. I'm not sure. But I mean, what does he give us that Wenger just doesn't want to sit him out for? What does he give us?
I don't know. I'm not sure it is a case of it probably is, but for me, it's not a case of what he gives us is, and then it's a case of what else can we put in instead. It's not. I don't think it's a case of if he had someone who could do 2/3 of what Alexis could do, maybe he would make the change. But, we've seen Iwobi. He's tried it with Iwobi. He's tried it with Welbeck. They're just different players. They're different types of players. And I think if he had, if it was my choice, I would take any money we can get for Alexis in January and buy someone to replace Alexis. And that's what I would do. But what can you do? I mean, he can turn games with a moment of magic. But I'm just not convinced right now that's enough. When the rest of his game is so poor, and he's giving the ball away so often, particularly when as we discussed, we do still have defensive frailties. That third goal was down to, if I recall, was Alexis trying a stupid back heel, on the halfway line. Totally unnecessary. When you're 2-1 up, 2-1 down, sorry.
Well, it was in their final third. It was in their final third.
But we're completely dominating. We're literally ramming it down them, that they're pinned in their own area, and we give the ball away when they've got so much pace. That's just idiotic.
Phil, yeah. So over to you, Phil. I mean, Dave's made a very good point that we just don't have anybody else in our ranks to sort of give us that sort of output in terms of goals and assists. Where do we go from here with him? I mean, his profligacy is not something new for this season. It's always been there. It's just that last season his goals and assists covered the sins. Where would you go with this?
Look, you summed it up well there. This sort of Jekyll and Hyde act is nothing new from Alexis. We're used to him giving the ball away and frustrating us to no end. But it's the same with Ramsey. These are the guys that will try things, that try and try the flicks, try the audacious over the top through balls. And if one comes off throughout the 90 minutes, then they've done their job. It's a difficult one because the whole contract situation is clouding him right now. He's frustrating everyone to no end. You can sort of tell his heart's not in it. He's not completely committed to the football club. When was it? 6 weeks ago, everyone was jumping on Ozil for the same thing. So, look, it's a lot of personal sort of disdain as well, clouding the judgment. But I agree, he has been poor of late, and to give it away 34 times is absolutely scandalous. At this level,
in this kind of game, yeah.
But we're jumping. You're right about Ramsey, but he's not doing that now. He's not doing that now.
No, he's not. You're right.
So yes, he used to do it, and yes, I would get on his back, and yes, it would frustrate the hell out of me, but he isn't doing it now, so I'll praise him. Ozil was as frustrating as hell a few months ago, even a few weeks ago. The last 4 games, he's been absolutely imperiously magnificent. So of course we're not going to get on his back, because he's pulling up trees for the team. Alexis is not. You know, even everybody said, myself included, that it didn't matter if he was in the last year's contract because he only knows one way to play. It's 100% commitment and effort. I think he still shows 100% effort and 100% commitment, but there's something. It's just he's playing on the edge, a player of his ability. So there's something, as Phil said, his mind's not quite, on the team, committed to Arsenal. It's that 1-2% it makes a huge difference for someone like Alexis, I think. You know, that long pass he tries across the pitch all the time, more of them are going out of play than going to one of our own players. You know, it's that fine margins, and it seems to me that it's just not there for him at the moment because of that tiny difference, in his head is making a huge difference on his feet.
I'd love one of our players to just give him a dressing down on the field. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Calm it down. Like,
that's the only reason we scored that goal, because the Man United players weren't expecting him to try and pass to Ramsey because he hasn't done all season. That's why they didn't track his run. I thought he's not going to pass to him.
Great finish though, wasn't it, Phil? Great finish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. It was quite bizarre. I mean, even the sort of atmosphere in the ground was just waiting for the flag to go up, and it was like, oh, he's actually onside here. All right, and he just stuck it in, And I think that was 5 minutes into the second half, and you could feel it. The ground was absolutely electric. And to be fair, even when we went 2-0 down, the fans were never offside. They were always backing the players. And that hasn't been the case recently. So that was nice. And for a good 20 minutes in that second half, there was a real urgency from the terraces to try and get back into that game. And when the Emirates is like that, you can feel it inside of you, and I'm sure the players could as well. So it was just such a shame that it unfolded the way it did.
It's a bit like the FA Cup final goal, wasn't it? That sort of delayed celebration, because when Alexis scored the opener in the FA, everyone thought it wasn't going to be given. Yeah. It's that same. It's like that can't possibly. There were 2 players, seemingly miles offside, but when you see the replay on the screen, they both were running from an onside position.
No, absolutely, yeah. Ashley Young completely fell asleep there, so. It's his fault.
Indeed. Ozil, as Dave said, he showed some real grit in this game. I mean, he was running back, he was controlling, he was taking it from deep in midfield. He really was dictating the play in the way that we've rarely seen throughout his career at Arsenal. He does it for Germany, he did it for Werder Bremen. He really sort of tried to carry the team, to greater heights. And, when you compare it to Oxlade-Chamberlain's performance against Liverpool, who he then joined, and Alexis' performance against Man City, there was no doubt in that. I mean, whether he's going to join Man United or not, he wanted to show everybody that, he is a man for the big occasion. And would you say, Dave, this is one of his, even though it was a failure, it was one of his finest performances?
Yeah, it was up there with the March 2015 quarter-final at Old Trafford. Where he was absolutely everywhere, covered every blade of grass, wanted the ball continuously, and not just in their half. He was just magnificent, and that's just sort of what we want. And people can argue with me till they're blue in the face. That's what you had with Cesc Fabregas from the age of 19 to 23. Every single game, that's what Fabregas did for us. However he left, however much people hate him now, that is a sort of level of commitment and this complete trying to carry his team. And that's what Ozil did on Saturday. And if he could do that, even 2 or 3 games out of 4, he would be a legend, and, just unbelievable the way he played. It's just absolutely magnificent.
Phil, 65 passes in the final third from Ozil.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Honestly, when you watch him like that, there aren't many players in the league who can play like he does, who can spot a pass like he does, who can, I was talking about Lingard gliding on the pitch earlier. He was absolutely, he's a joy to watch, and it's just so frustrating because you think, why haven't we had more of this? It's just, the criticism often leveled at Ozil is that he doesn't take games by the scruff of the neck, but that's completely what he did. He's done it against Spurs already,
Mm-hmm.
and he did it again on Saturday. And, you know, that's all you can ask. You know, we see Sanchez, you know, whatever reason, his mind's not in there. Sometimes he gives the ball away cheaply, but Ozil was doing everything he could to try and get us back into that game. And, you know, there was one point especially where I saw him, I think Man United broke in the first half, and it was Pogba on the right hand side, and I thought it was Kolasinac struck him back, and then I saw it was Ozil. I couldn't believe it. He must have gone about 50 yards, you know, to try and stop Pogba, crossing into, I think it was Martial in the box. So, you know, that's all you can ask. And when he's like that, he's honestly untouchable, and it's no surprise that Mourinho probably wants him again. So.
And it's the kind of performance that Mourinho wants from his kind of players, doesn't it? I mean, you know, that's the kind of level of performance that Mourinho will probably look at and say, yeah, I can do something with him at Man United. I mean, because he's got Mkhitaryan, who he doesn't trust. He blatantly doesn't trust, obviously, because he's playing Lingard there now. But I mean, that kind of performance that Ozil gave, Mourinho must be thinking, you know what? Yeah, let's partner up again.
Yeah, I can see it as well. So I'm dreading it because, you know, you can often hear Ozil speak about Mourinho and why he admires him as a coach, and, you know, it's too convenient, isn't it? And I'm just dreading it if it actually happens, because it's not just to Manchester United, it's to Mourinho as well, and it's going to leave such a sour taste in my mouth, a bit like Van Persie going to Fergie. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
I'll tell you what, just before we move on, I don't know if you guys watched when you got home, we watched the BT Sport thing, but before the game, they asked Rio Ferdinand about Ozil, and he said that, you know, he's one of the, since he's been in the league, his assists and chance creations is off the charts. And he said, I would have him at Man United all day, every day. He said that before the game. He said, all day, every day. He said, he actually pushed Martin Keown and said, I'll take him off you now. You know, and then after the game, people were saying that, I think there was footage of him shaking, going up to the Man United substitutes or whatever. And there was obviously, footage of him in the tunnel with Pogba. I mean, the rumour mill is going to be cranking up ever more now, whether he goes in January or in the summer, but it looks increasingly like Man United, Old Trafford is his destination, right, Phil?
I mean, it looks that way at the moment. I've still got a tiny bit of hope that we can somehow convince him to stay, especially with some of the new guys coming in behind the scenes, because, you know, there was apparently no room for negotiation with Dick Law, so we'll see what happens there. But, you know, he was supposed to be the game changer for Arsenal Football Club, and, you know, to see him leave after 4 years or 5 years, whatever it is, and to United of all people after, you know, we've won 3 FA Cups while he's been here and it's been brilliant, but, you know, there's a feeling deep inside that I've just been left wanting more. And to see him go there and really kick on under Mourinho would kill me. So I hope we can convince him somehow, but, you know, who can blame him if he wants to go to United? There'll be a massive sign-on fee. You know, he's got great players around him. He's got a manager that he likes, you know. So, yeah, I prefer not to think about it, but I can see why it would appeal to him.
Dave, Rio also said that Mourinho's the kind of manager that will give him the kick up the backside when he needs it and give him an arm around his shoulder when he needs it. He gives players what they need. If he loves a player, you know, he'll do whatever's required to get the best out of the player. And we saw it in his book when he said, you know, he's had a few confrontations with Mourinho in the dressing room and whatnot, and it's all been done to sort of like get the best out of him. Can you see it happening? I mean, in your heart of hearts, do you see it happening, him going to the
I started, well, I said last week, I've just got this weird feeling that he's going to sign a new contract. I mean, I haven't had that all season, but there's two explanations for him suddenly turning on the form that we've all wanted for ages. One is that he's completely happy and he's made a decision and he's happy in his football at Arsenal and he's happy, you know, within our setup. The other one is that he's just trying to impress whoever's watching. I don't know. I just got this weird feeling he's going to stay, and it's based on absolutely nothing other than just how I feel.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but in one of my other WhatsApp, apparently Joachim Low is said to be rumoured to be leaving the Germany setup at the end of the World Cup. Could it be? He might make the journey over to the Arsenal, Dave? Could you see that happening?
Yeah, I could. Well, I mean, certainly, I'm sure he'd be on a lot of big club shortlists if he is available. I don't see any reason why not. I think he'd probably fancy a crack at a big club. That'd be great. With that relationship with Ozil and
exactly.
Mustafi. Yeah.
Indeed. Okay.
That'd be nice.
Okay. Goal number 3 then. We were saying, Dave, that Pogba was imperial. I mean, if there was one player that was probably, had a better game than Ozil as an outfield player, it was Pogba. I mean, that third goal, I mean, Alexis Sanchez loses it in their half. He goes to Pogba and then he just says to Ramsey, "Get the f off of me," and he's dry. Yeah.
People were bouncing off him all day.
And the way he manhandled Koscielny in that. Koscielny again was at fault. He had him. He had the angle on him. And then for some reason or another, I don't know what happened down the byline. He just got ragdolled. He just got ragdolled out of it. And then.
Well, in hindsight, Koscielny shouldn't have played against Huddersfield. No. We've said all season, I think even Wenger said he can't play 3 games in a week. And there we are watching him play 3 Premier League games in a week. When we've got Chambers fit, we've got Holding fit, we've got Mertesacker fit. Whoever, we got 3, reasonably good centre backs who could have played against Huddersfield. So I just think he had nothing left in the tank, and he was slipping and sliding. You've got to wonder about the strength of his Achilles in that situation. But I don't think Koscielny's become a bad player overnight. I just don't think we can rely on him to play on a consistent basis. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be. Well, it's unfortunate because he's without Mustafi now. If he is going to continue with the 3, next weekend at St Mary's, I would like to see Koscielny stay on the right, because I don't like Koscielny. We've had this conversation before. I don't like Koscielny in the middle of a 3. He's not a communicator. He leads by example, of course he does, and we all love him, but he's not a communicator. He's not telling, the 2 players either side of him where to go and when to push forward and when to pull back. We need a communicator in there. So unfortunately, much as I'm not the biggest fan in the world, I would probably have to select Mertesacker in that role over Holding, or Chambers. But again, I just don't understand Wenger's attitude towards Chambers. He finally gives him a start the other week and plays him at wing back, which is absolutely ridiculous. Poor lad's got to be given a break.
Indeed. Phil, what about you? Did it suck the life? It kind of sucked the life out of the stadium by the signs of it. When that third goal went it. Although it was still a lot of time left for us to actually get back into it. But I mean, at that point, did you sort of sink back into your chair and into your seat and just think, this is it. That's it. That's the 3 points for them.
Yeah, I think that's inevitable, really. We put a lot into that 20 minutes after the second half, and then, we were caught on a sucker punch like that. That was the first time I'd actually seen Pogba live, and the way he eats up the grass is incredible. Like, you don't realise what an athlete he is until you see him in the flesh. And he's just towering over all our midfielders and our defenders. He's an incredible player. I know he got a lot of stick for starting slowly, but he's still young. He's a young player, and that 90 million quid is going to look like a snip in a few years. So
we all know who he reminds us of, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, so look, I think Koscielny was definitely at fault. Once he had him, he was goal side. He just lacked that last bit of strength to see him out, and Xhaka lost Lingard in the middle. The frustrating thing was he covered the ground. Usually that's what he's being criticised for. His pace, his lack of mobility. But he read the danger and he covered the ground. But then he got into the box and just lost Lingard completely.
Where was Bellerin? Where was Bellerin at that point? But I can't remember.
I think they caught us on a counter because it was Alexis that Alexis lost the ball high up. So. And I can understand that we're trying to get the equaliser. We're committing men forward. So the fact that we've got so many guys up for, I have no issue with that. It's just, Cost should have seen it out. And as you said, Xhaka's got to have eyes at the back. He's run back with Lingard and he's just lost him at the last minute.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even Monreal, they were both running back and no one was shouting, he's behind you or check, give him a shout. But
no commitment. This close to Christmas, you think someone would be shouting he's behind you?
Yeah. So obviously that was the sucker punch there, and I know there was 20 odd minutes left, but they were camped in their box after that, and even with the red card, that probably made it even more difficult actually. So, we gave it our all, and I can absolutely commend every single player on that pitch because, the fight and commitment they showed, to the last minute was, it made me proud because it's not often we see that, but it was just a goal too many, I think, after that.
And De Gea is without a shadow.
Oh, yeah.
Best goalkeeper in the world.
Sensational. Sensational.
Just quickly, Phil, 2 penalties, were they stonewallers for you? Obviously, the Welbeck one for me was definitely stonewall, but the one that they also missed was, Rojo's arm around, forearm on Lacazette's throat.
The Rojo one I can make peace with. I think it happened very quickly, and both players are sort of at an awkward angle for the ref and the linesman to see through a lot of bodies there. And, Lacazette got a touch onto it as well. So if he missed the ball completely, then maybe. But I can sort of make peace with that one. The Welbeck one, though, I don't know how that is not a foul. The linesman is straight. He's looking at it dead on, and he's just missed it. We can say that Welbeck was maybe too honest there. He got back up on his feet, but it was clear. I was on the other end of the stadium and I could see it.
Well, that's right in front of me, Phil. That is literally.
Yeah.
I'm up. That is. Well, I thought, where I sit, Giles. I'm just literally looking straight at that.
Honestly,
absolutely stonewall.
It wasn't even contentious because you can see by the physics of their body movement that his legs there was no other way for him to fall like he did without his legs being swiped from underneath him. And I couldn't believe it, honestly. It was just a bizarre decision. And to be fair, the ref had a good game until then. I thought the red card, was a terrible tackle. I thought he did a lot worse damage to Bellerin than him just being able to run it off, because when I saw that force come down, that was right in front of me actually. And that force of 90 kilos coming down on Bellerin's knee there, I thought it could have been a lot worse than what it was, and that was a definite red. So fair play to the ref for that, but for him and his linesman to miss that penalty was shocking.
Dave, was Koscielny lucky to stay on? Or do you think because of the angle where it was in the field, it was a yellow card and that was fine?
To be honest with you, other end of the pitch for me, I haven't watched Match of the Day. I was too depressed, so I hadn't really seen it. I gather, I gather it was probably fair to be a yellow from what I've heard from people saying to me, but I didn't see it, Giles. I have to be honest. I couldn't see it and I haven't watched it back, so.
Cool. All right, just one more thing. Dave, Wenger said he blamed himself. He said, when you have a game like that where, your players have given their all, but, basically either end we were poor. He said he blames himself. Do you apportion blame to Wenger?
None at all.
Phil?
Pick the right team. Pick the team we would have picked. Individual errors from experienced professionals.
Phil?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's just trying to take some heat off his players with that one. Individual errors cost us on the day, and for 80 minutes of that game we were faultless. We did everything we could to try and get back into that game, and maybe some bits of luck here and there went against us. No, definitely not the manager. Not his fault. And I think, to be honest, a lot of the fan base would agree because, we're no strangers to giving him stick. When he's at fault, everyone lets him know about it. But yeah, I agree with Dave. There was nothing he could do in that.
And is Mustafi genuinely injured, or is that injured pride when he went?
Well, afterwards he said it's quite an odd statement, but maybe he was still peeved off at the actual result or the performance. I don't know, but he usually kind of gives you a bit more, doesn't he, Phil? I mean, he usually gives you a bit more in the press conference when he's asked that kind of question.
Yeah, I thought that was quite strange actually. He usually, even if he's not sure, he'll say, "I think it's a calf or a groin," to be honest, I think he actually did overstretch when, after he lost the ball, Lukaku was bursting past him and he tried to make like a last ditch lunge at him there, and I think he might have pulled something in his groin, but that's honestly me giving him the benefit of the doubt there because I have no idea. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens after that.
Is a pride strain a muscle injury?
I was going to ask you, David, what do you think? What do you say to that, though? I mean, a lot of people were saying, he just went off because he was so embarrassed or whatever. What do you say to stuff like that?
I've seen it. I saw it in the, let me think, the semi-final against Wigan, when Gibbs went off and Monreal came off with Gibbs when we were chasing the game, when he went to penalties. He went up for a challenge and he literally went up, flounced in the air, didn't try and win the header at all, and then went down, collapsed to the heap and stayed down for 2 minutes because he just literally had not. I mean, it happens. I'm not saying I'm not saying players would go off pretending to be injured, but that was such a bad error that it looked like that. It looked exactly like that. It looked like, I can't get up, I'm going to pretend I'm injured. It's like when it's like when players commit a foul, they know they've committed a foul, they roll around pretending they're injured to sort of try and deflect attention. I don't know. It did look like that to me. It really did.
That would bring his character into question, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah, but once you've made that instant decision, it's hard to go back on it, isn't it? I don't know, Giles. It just looked like that to me. It looked to me like he wasn't that injured. It's just pride. Who knows? I'm probably completely wrong. It's just the way I felt at the time. It doesn't make any sense.
I tell you, 33 shots on goal in that game, and only one goal to show for it. The only other occasion in Premier League history where a team has had more shots on goal and not one was. Can any of you name me the team and the opponent?
It's us against someone really ridiculous, isn't it? Like Burnley or something like that, isn't it? Is it us again?
It's 1 point. Phil, can you name the opponent?
I know I'm going to go Southampton because Fraser Forster usually turns into.
No, it was a little team. It was a little team.
35 shots against West Ham United in 2007.
All right. Okay.
So there you are.
Was that when Bobby Zamora scored the winner?
It could have well have been, yeah. It could well have been. I mean, it's one of those things where we're not going to meet David De Gea's every week, but at the same time, I think we've got to really cut out. It's not, the thing is, we're not talking about youth teamers or under 23 players. We're talking about experienced players in defence. Got to cut out these mistakes. We've seen it too often. We've seen it at Liverpool earlier this season. We've seen it at Stoke City. We keep seeing it time and again. Just after we've gone on a good run as well, it really sort of like brings it all crashing down, like the momentum crashing down. But anyway, we've got Southampton after. Obviously, we've got Barty Brussels. We've got Southampton next weekend. Dave, what's your prediction for the match at St Mary's?
They seem to be recovering a little bit, don't they? They have a little run of not losing so many. They're climbing the table. I think Charlie Austin's banging form, and I heard him interviewed the other day after the South Coast derby, and he sounds incredibly confident. People are starting to talk about him for the World Cup squad. Really so I've got a lot of players I admire. I don't know much about the manager. I like a lot of their players. I like Redmond a lot. I like Ward-Prowse a lot. I like the young centre-back, what's his name, Jack
Stevens.
Jack Stevens. I like a lot of their players. Obviously, it's where I used to live. I'm looking forward to the game, but I think we'll have too much for them. The decision for us, as I say, is, who comes in from Mustafi if he is genuinely injured, probably or he makes a decision to start this game the way he finished the last game with the new formation. I personally, this isn't a knee-jerk reaction. I know you've hinted that a lot of people are saying that. With me, I just think I'd like to see us shake it up and select a formation appropriate for the game. I think even though we're the away side, we will have most of the possession, and they're playing one up top. They can leave their main striker very isolated. So I think we should probably play 4-2-3-1 and decide who plays alongside Koscielny and put Monreal at left back. That's what I would do. But
so
I think
your prediction for the game?
We'll have too much. Yeah, sorry. I thought you had a prediction for the lineup. Prediction for the game is 3-1.
3-1 Arsenal. And you, Phil?
I'm going for a 2-0 win. Keep it free at the back. Let Ozil, Alexis and Lacazette do their thing. And I think we'll have too much for them, like Dave said.
Coolio. All right. That's been the Gooner Ramble podcast. Still conflicted. They haven't helped me choose one path or the other. They've actually reassured me that staying on this path is completely fine. So that's been a Gooner Ramble podcast. I want to thank my esteemed colleagues. Phil, thank you, sir.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me on.
And also Dave. Thank you very much, Dave.
Cheers, Giles. Thanks for that. Cheers, Phil.
All right. So that's been a Gooner Ramble podcast. Catch us again as we review the Southampton game. Phil, Rick, just cut that bit out. It's been a good round podcast. I've been your host, Giles, Catch us again at the other side of the Southampton game. Up your Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.
This episode of the Gooner Ramble podcast is sponsored by the sporting app Bookie. Download Bookie, use the promo code podcast, bet and deposit £10 for a free £10 bet. That's Bookie, BOOKEE. Please bet responsibly.